Imagine if you'd never eaten a potato. Where would you be? Today, these little dudes are all over the world, but it wasn't always so. It took 500 years and hundreds of boat trips and a little sprinkle of chance for a potato to change the world. I bet you everything I own, which is not much, that you've eaten a potato in the past month. But 600 years ago, you would have never heard of a potato, unless you lived in the Andes Mountains. Potatoes are native to Western South America, originating in the land of modern-day southern Peru and northern Bolivia. Scientists have traced potatoes to the land around Lake Titicaca, the largest lake in South America. The people groups living in this region, like the Atacama, Quechua, and Uru, have grown potatoes for all recorded history. The potatoes here are not like the ones you're used to. For starters, there are thousands of wild potato varieties native to Western South America, and they come in all shapes and sizes. Indigenous peoples would grow potatoes in terraces, bearing different varieties together, and with a laundry list of different types to choose from, the result was great: genetic diversity. Potatoes grown in the Andes had and still have much higher nutrient count and a richer, earthier flavor. Of course, this all begs the question: how did potatoes make it to the United States? And why are they so different from the taters grown in South America? Worry not, viewer. A delicious tale of travel, tragedy, and chance awaits. Life in the Andes was going pretty well for millennia, until the 16th century, when explorers from Spain reached Peru in search of gold and glory. Within 30 years of the conquistadors' arrival, potatoes had spread throughout the Spanish Empire. A new source of food and full of carbohydrates, Europeans rejoiced. Well, almost all Europeans. Some viewed the starchy blob with disgust, classifying it as a food for peasants. King Frederick the Great of Prussia had to force people to eat them, and in England, people denounced them as a propaganda tool. In France, potatoes were banned till 1772 over fears that it caused leprosy. In the 1700s, philosopher Denis Diderot stated the potato was windy, meaning it made you fart. Over the next few hundred years, Western Europeans began to enjoy potatoes, but France especially held out. Antoine Augustin Parmentier entered stage left. In his life, Antoine Augustin achieved many things, including extracting sugar from sugar beets and studying refrigeration. However, his greatest achievement was as a potato propagandist. Fighting in the 7 Years' War against Prussia, which had begun adoption of the potato as a hearty food source, Parmentier was captured 5 times as a prisoner of war and was fed potatoes. Realizing that potatoes were a great nutrition source and that they didn't cause leprosy, he decided to promulgate potatoes. Around that time, King Louis XVI of France lifted price ceilings on bread, and people couldn't afford it. Parmentier pulled off stunts like inviting elite guests to dinner of only potatoes and persuaded the king and queen to wear potato blossom. The result? The French picked up potatoes in fashion. Originally, potatoes weren't the superstars in Europe that they were in South America, and not just because of the taste. The thousands of potato varieties home to the Andes had grown accustomed to short days in the mountains. Potatoes grow buried in the ground, and in Europe and North America, the days are much longer, meaning the potatoes couldn't enjoy their month-long nap, so they didn't grow as much. There are differing opinions on how this happened, but somehow, potatoes in Europe became accustomed to the long days. It might have been due to slow microevolution or the introduction to long-day potatoes from Chile. But over the course of a couple hundred years, the crop flourished in Western Europe. As potatoes became more accustomed to European days, Europeans also figured out how to grow more of them. See, potatoes, like other plants, rely heavily on an element called nitrogen to grow. Nitrogen is an important part of chlorophyll, the part of the plant that is responsible for photosynthesis. Nitrogen occurs naturally in our air, but there's more than one way to capture it. And one of the other ways is, well, bird poop. Littered across the world's ocean are islands caked in guano, or bird poop. Seagulls land on these parcels, do their business, and fly on their way. Suddenly, with humans realizing that fertilizing their land with guano meant exponential gains, the race was on. Sailors would hop in their boats and go to these islands, shovel their boats full with this guano, and come back to the mainland to sell. This laid the foundation for fertilizers today. And it also changed exploration for conquest habits of 19th century empires like the United States, which began to lay claims to islands across the Pacific Ocean. Indirectly, the rise of potato popularity in the Western world fueled part of the expansion of empires that marked the 1800s. Let's keep tally. So far, potatoes, a once unknown starchy staple from South America, have been brought to Europe by Spaniards. However, not everyone was a potato fanatic, and it took centuries of propaganda and a little bit of desperation to cement the potato's role as a bona fide superstar. And with potatoes becoming a regular on Western plates, stock in fertilizers like guano rose rapidly, meaning even more expansion, and of course, more potatoes. Today, potatoes are the 5th most eaten crops on Earth, grown on 6 continents and feeding billions. The economic impact from potatoes can't be understated. In the United States alone, the potato industry raises over $100 billion annually. Whether you realize it or not, your world is shaped by potatoes. Potatoes scaffolded the population boom of Europe in the 18th and 19th centuries. Potatoes created a rush for expansion into the ocean. And today, potatoes are a vital cog in the American and global economy. We owe that all to Andean peoples who cultivated the crop for millennia. Humans have changed potatoes forever, and this human is going to change this potato forever. Delicious!